we had a little change of scenery here. I have added what is called an Advent wreath, if you're not familiar with it. It is one of our family traditions. One of the most wonderful things about the holidays is the traditions that we have handed down, the things we have done from year to year, from generation to generation. This is the warp and the weft of our families. It holds us together, it binds us together, the past and the present, and reaches in to bless the future. Traditions are really important because they are reminders of the meaning of the holiday, the meaning of whatever was important to your family. In my personal family, I love the Advent wreath. I'm going to talk to you more about that later, but first of all, we just want to talk a little bit about traditions. Can you remember your traditions? Do you have any? And perhaps there are what has become tradition that really shouldn't be, in my never to be humble opinion, like going shopping on Black Friday. If you gotta shop, go shopping on Small Business Saturday and support your local small businesses. But don't overdo. I hope you did your finance exercise that we just did a minute ago and had a few awakenings, those aha moments that will prosper you during the holiday season. Think about it for a minute. Do you want to come out of the holidays feeling drained and with a load of bills, or do you want to come out of the holidays happy, prosperous, and with a little money to spend when the midwinter blues get to you and maybe you need to get out of town for a few days? Think about it. It's not what you got, it's what you do with it. Do what you want with it, not what somebody else is making you believe you should do with it. Enough said on that. Let's take a look at some family traditions, like the Advent wreath. Okay, birthday boy, gotta go aside so we can do our little exercise. This is a look at some of the Christmas traditions we have. I'm going to bring you up close so that you can take a look with me. Okay, hope you can see it well. Most people exchange gifts at Christmas. We did talk about that, and there are ways that you can enjoy this tradition within reason. You can put a dollar amount on it. You can draw names. You can do something so that the gift-giving part of Christmas, that tradition, doesn't take away from your joy. What gift exchange traditions do you have in your family? Christmas stockings. I love Christmas stockings. You can go crazy with them, or you can just, put a few little things in there. A couple Christmases ago, I went to my son's house, and he had kind of dropped out of the Christmas stocking tradition somewhere along the line, but I never did, so I brought him a stocking. I didn't get to spend Christmas with him for quite a few years when I was living far away. And he was so thrilled with his stocking. The only problem was his little boy was like, well, wait a minute, what's this all about? So now my son and my grandson both get a stocking when I go there to have Christmas with them. And I know that if I don't get to go there, I know Matthew's going to get a stocking. That's my grandson. Then we have the Advent rituals, like I was telling you with my Advent wreath. That's one thing, following along the themes of Advent, which are hope, peace, joy, and love. These are the real gifts of Christmas. Then there's holiday baking. A lot of people have holiday baking traditions. I used to bake cookies with my kids when they were little, and today my kids still bake cookies with their kids. How about home entertaining? Home entertaining is so fun, and it can be really enjoyable as long as it's not taxing you and sapping, your energy. Now here again, one of the most important to me is family religious traditions. Now, for me, the Advent wreath certainly is a Christmas tradition, a spiritual tradition. And when I was in the Catholic Church, I always loved midnight mass. Oh, that was just so wonderful to go to church in the middle of the night and come home, and even as a kid come home and, hop in bed so Santa Claus could come. But what did we do? We put the spiritual experience first, and then we could enjoy much more the human experience. As a minister, I like to carry this through when I was in a regular pulpit ministry. I always like to have, if not a midnight service, a candle lighting service after dark. We have also ethnic traditions. Ethnic traditions, like in the Italian tradition, I know there's like a whole bunch of different kinds of fish they have on Christmas Eve and different things. I'm not Italian as much as I love my pasta, but there are probably ethnic traditions that you have, and if you've lost touch with them, I encourage you to get back in touch. All you have to do is go to your best friend Google, and you can look up Polish or Irish or whatever holiday traditions, and you'll find them. Outdoor decorations are a tradition for many, many people. Even those big old blow-up things are just lights around the house, different colors, the ones that look like snow are falling. Decorating the house and tree. Different people have their styles. I like to decorate my house, and I like to hang up garlands of phony for sure. What is that? Like garlands of evergreen kind of thing, green things. And I love to put it over my doors and over my windows. It's not quite the traditional. And then, of course, the Christmas tree. You may not be aware of this, but Christmas trees were not a big thing in the United States until the early 1900s. And in the 1800s, not so much. Some people had them, but I went to an experience once called Christmas at Conner Prairie when I was in Indiana, and we would go from house to house and visit people who would tell stories about their time, and I was surprised to see that Christmas trees have probably not even been around for 200 years. So that's a tradition that kind of sort of happened. And then, of course, there are cultural events that happen at the holidays, family games and music. I hate to say it, but music has kind of dropped away with television and such. Even when I was a little girl, we had Mitch Miller's Christmas Sing-Along, and we would follow the bouncing ball on the TV, singing along to the Christmas carols. I remember that with a very warm heart. Now, one of the things that's real important is charitable activities. It is so much more fulfilling to give than receive, especially when the one we give to cannot give back to us. So let's think about that for a couple of minutes. What are some of your traditions? Have you gotten away from them? Do you carry them on? As you go through the holiday season, you'll undoubtedly be visiting with folks. You might want to actually, start a conversation when you're all sitting around about what are your holiday traditions? What were your family traditions? What did you do? How did you celebrate it? Did you go to church? Did you go sledding? There's so many things. So think about that. Now, getting back briefly to the Advent wreath, I just want you to know I am going to be posting a video on how to make an Advent wreath, and also I'll be posting an item you can print out about how to use and enjoy your Advent wreath to get the deepest meaning out of it. So when we talk about traditions, let's go back to that purpose versus task. If the purpose of Christmas is to celebrate the gifts that God gives to us, the gift in our master teacher, our Savior Jesus, who really taught us a great way to live. It doesn't matter what faith you're from. Spiritual principle is spiritual principle, whether you're Jewish, Pentecostal, Catholic, love, when you are planning an activity, when you're thinking about a tradition, ask yourself, does that task, does that tradition support my purpose? If it doesn't, chances are you don't need to do it, and chances are you will never even miss it. I had a favorite audio series, and I listened to it on cassette until I actually wore the cassettes out, and now I don't even have a cassette player in my car anymore. But it was called This Year Will Be Different. And in one of the stories, it was a collection of stories, and one of the stories, the girl in the story said, oh, a tradition is it? She was talking to her new stepmother, and her mother had died, and so the father remarried, and she's talking to this new stepmother. She's, it's a tradition, is it? Well, how long does it take to make a tradition? A tradition, I think by the time you do it twice, if it worked twice, it's a tradition that you're going to want to do again and again. But you want your traditions to be positive, fulfilling. You don't just do it because it's the way it's always been done. Like that old story about the lady who was making a ham, so she cut the end off of it and put it in the pan. And her husband said, honey, why did you cut the end off that piece of ham? And she said, well, because my mother always did it. Well, come to find out, her mother always did it because she always had a ham that was bigger than her pan. So some traditions you don't need to carry on. The good ones, I invite you to keep them, to enjoy them. And if you don't have any, start some this year. And start new ones that are definitely meaningful. I'll see you next exercise.